I'll just say this meeting is just a quick informational session. We're not going to be doing any Q&A, but we do invite you and encourage you to come to the next all partner meeting where we can get a little bit deeper into what does all this work mean and continue to work together as partners to put our new leadership table in place. So also just wanted to name that we have folks here in person. Thank you to Helena Stevens and the City of Bellevue for hosting us. We are going to be celebrating together in person with the Reimagining Leadership Task Force folks. Okay, so really wanting just to highlight all the amazing leaders in our community who have been helping lead this work here. One of the things you'll note is we leveraged a Finney space to move a lot of this work over the phases of reimagining leadership. So I've been talking about the leadership table quite a bit here, and so wanting to provide some conversation around what do we mean when we talk about the leadership table. The new leadership table was co-developed by partners via the Reimagining Leadership Group or Reimagining Leadership Task Force to center those most impacted, ensure representation from diverse stakeholders, and provide guidance to the partnership. The leadership table members hold informal authority as advocates for their communities. The leadership table stakeholders will act as advocates for community level priorities, provide guidance on the partnership's mission and vision, and hold formal authority on behalf of the collective work of the partnership. So that looks like our CANs, our councils, and programs such as the all partner meeting and leadership table. Feel free to drop questions in the chat or reflections in the chat that you have as we continue to work through our presentation. Okay. You know, one of the things we really value in this work is being able to look back, to go into our history and really understand where we've come from to help reinforce where we're headed. I'm really proud to say that Eastside Pathways didn't just begin thinking about how do we shift power back to the community. In the most recent years, we actually really started focusing and moving this work back in 2012. Eastside Pathways started really examining our community's based values back in 2012, jumping forward into 2018 and our co-development of the 2020-2023 strategic planning process. Our partners adopted the sixth new goal, which was race no longer determines outcomes. We also co-developed our racial equity pathway, which was creating some language and clarity around how, as a collective impact organization, we would move racial equity forward. Back in 2019, we launched our POC only space and began co-developing the Eastside Pathways Equity Pledge. In 2020, the Eastside Pathways Equity Pledge was codified and formally adopted by our board, and the board began a community engagement group to begin getting feedback from our partners about how the Black and Latin community were being supported and the impacts of this work on those focus populations, and really began to think about how to be authentic as a partnership and serve diverse needs across our partnership. And then in 2021, the Eastside Pathways Board Development Committee recommended that we not only just think about how do we diversify the people on our board, but actually reimagine the whole entire structure, right? So we weren't just doing the diversity work, but we were also doing the equity work in that shift. Our board approved the development of the Reimagining Leadership Group back in May 2021, and then our Racial Equity Collaborative Action Network also launched in 2021. I think one of the things that's really important for us to discuss here is the container. We know that having really strong working agreements or working intentions is a critical piece of moving work, particularly adaptive work, together. So I'm just going to take a pause here and give you a moment to read over the working agreements that the Reimagining Leadership Task Force co-developed to help hold their container as they move this work together. For folks online, I invite you just to drop one of the ones that really resonates with you in the chat. People in person? Thank you, Angela. I see pause, reflect, collaborate, and act. All right. Well, thank you all. Just want to encourage you, if you're not already building the practice and protocol, thank you, Yvonne Monique. If you're not already building the protocol of taking time when building containers or building group dynamics to build working agreements, highly recommend it. They really help set the tone for how we're going to work together, particularly as we get into adaptive work that can be challenging for groups. So at the most high level, just wanted to honor the work that happened in each of the 4 phases of the Reimagining Leadership Task Force and offer our gratitude for our facilitators through each of those phases. Phase 1 was co-facilitated by Fernell Miller and Fran Davidson, and the scope of that work was to really start building that container and we used affinity spaces as well as looking back and reflecting to help build the container for the Reimagining Leadership. In phase 2, facilitated by Sarah Cotton-Rajski, we started to look at culture and a framework for development. So beginning to have some shared language and shared understanding around the existing culture in EP, what sort of culture we needed to work together moving forward, and then to examine the framework that structures how this group was actually set up and how that would help move the work forward. In phase 3 and 4, we shifted the work back to the backbone staff, primarily Sandy Nathan, community impact manager, and began to actually go from kind of that talk to action and developing the structure for how folks would get nominated, how folks would get selected, and then what was the value proposition or benefits for the people who joined our leadership table. In phase 4, we actually began nominating folks for the leadership table as a group started to select those candidates based upon the values that had been identified by the group and began onboarding those new leadership table members. And as of late, I believe we have about 10 people who have been nominated for the leadership table. And we're really looking forward to those folks filling the remaining 15 seats. So just want to say that again, there's a remaining 15 seats. So if you're interested in joining the leadership table, I highly recommend you contact one of our staff members. So what does this mean for our partnership? On the right, you'll see the partnership framework. If you haven't seen this before, we shifted from a heterarchical or triangular shaped partnership model to these nested circles. And the idea here is when we say the community is at the center, our model really needs to reflect that. So the idea is that community, those most impacted children, youth, and young adults, and our shared vision is at the center of our partnership. And that's how we prioritize our work together. In the next ring at that role level, you'll see that's where our collaborative action networks are. And that's where the work actually happens, where partners are coming together to use their resources, relationships to drive results in this community. And at the outer ring, you'll see the system level. That's where our councils who provide insights to our partners and partnership programs, you as organizational community philanthropic partners, our backbone staff, as well as our leadership table sit. And that's where we answer the question, what do you need to get the work done? So really wanted to double down and clarify that the role of the partners has not shifted in this work. You will continue to come together to identify those areas where you have shared values, shared vision for the community to do cross-sector and cross-organizational continuous improvement, using those collective impact conditions of continuous communication, data sharing, and mutually reinforcing activities. The priorities of the collaborative action networks represent the shared vision of our partners. So what is the work that we're going to do together, not in a silo, but cross-organizationally? So this new body, the leadership table is going to be the folks that are going to help us prioritize the work. They're going to help provide insights and expertise through their lived experience and their connection to those most impacted to help drive the work of our partnership, providing consultation to the backbone staff, our council members, by providing their time, treasure, and talent. The purpose and function of this new leadership table is to shift from those with the most formal authority to those who are most impacted and have the most lived experience in our areas of focus. We as a partnership will have to continue to have conversations around how we cede authority to this table, but we're really excited for the work that we've done to date. And then just again, naming the purpose and value proposition of the backbone. The backbone's primary function is to act as a convener and facilitator of the partnership. We provide adaptive leadership competencies and supports sequenced using the Equitable Results Series, which is really just how do we know the order in which we're going to do these different activities together in our collaborative action networks, as well as supporting you all as you develop and test your adaptive solutions in the community. One thing you may not know is the Backbone also does provide services around capacity building. So we've brought in subject matter experts and held leader days for you all as partners to continue to codify your work and strengthen your competencies and the skills that we use to do adaptive community-led work. So just to highlight there that the primary function of the Backbone is to be a convener and facilitator for the partnership. And with that, I just want to give you a moment to offer some gratitude and acknowledge all the folks who have participated in all 4 phases of the Reimagining Leadership Group. It's a short presentation. And because we have just a couple minutes here, happy to open the floor to any of the folks on the call or in the room about what you heard today in our presentation. Okay, any questions out there? We got through that really quickly. So are there any questions we can answer for you, folks who are on Zoom? Any questions? There's so many amazing people on this call. I know you have critical questions. I see who's on this call. Any questions that I can answer for you at this time, since we have a few more minutes?
I don't have any questions. I just looking at the people on this list, and you guys are all amazing. And then it sounded weird for me to say like how proud I am of you all.
Oh, thank you, Angela.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. It's hard work, and you guys just always have the community's back, the youth's back, and so celebrate. Woohoo.
Thank you, Angela. And thank you, Yvonne. I see your comment here in the chat. Thank you. Thank you, Arik. Absolutely. We really look forward to seeing all the things that are coming. What do next steps look like for the leadership table? That is a great question. So know that we are spending time together in office here or in person here at City Hall to work in our task force groups. I'll put that slide up because we do have a what's the next steps slide here. So we have some folks who are part of the Reimagining Leadership who have agreed to continue to work in task forces, and those task forces are focusing on storytelling and the history of EP. We know that we have to go back and revisit the story that we tell about this partnership and ensure that it includes all the people who have made contributions. We also want to think about the brand and the voice of the partnership and how we're going to tell our stories moving forward. Another one of those task forces is the youth partner pathway. As you know, we don't have young people in our rooms at this point because we don't have the structure to support them. So we're going to start having some conversations about how do we provide structural and equitable support for young people to be in our rooms. We have our operations task force who is looking at what is the function and role? How do we actually operationalize this new body with the support of the Backbone, of course? And then our last group is looking at accessibility. One of the things we've heard year over year is that there's lots of room for growth in our partnership around all different types of accessibility, whether that be for folks with disabilities, language accessibility, and things like this. So that's the next step. We don't have any firm answers because we wanted to make sure we didn't think we knew all the answers before actually getting the leadership table up and running. We know that we have amazing people joining our leadership table, and we want to be able to co-develop the solutions with them. Okay, next question from Suppan. Suppan, do you want to unmute and share your question? Suppan's been a part of this process, so.
Yeah, although I wasn't there at the very end of it. But essentially, you had said that, hey, we already have 10 members of the leadership table. We could definitely use 15 more. So what are the expectations? What are, in case we're thinking of people in our own institutions or our own places that might be good for it, what should we be taking back with us to think about the right people and encourage folks to consider it?
Yeah, thank you, Sep, and that's a great question. So I'm not going to have a ton of answers for you because, again, we didn't want to get this cart too far down the road without the leadership table folks. What I can say is that leadership table members are expected to attend an Eastside Pathways 101. And if you haven't attended an EP 101, we think it's a great step for all people who are looking to get up to speed on how things are running in Eastside Pathways. You're also encouraged to have a one-on-one with one of our community impact managers just to get have a deeper conversation about your focus and your kind of your why in joining the partnership. And then the Reimagining Leadership folks have created a decision-making matrix, so to speak, on what are the leadership competencies we hope to have in our leadership table, which helps develop that nomination and selection process. So those are kind of some of the onboarding and selection pieces. And then as far as like what is expected of them once they join that leadership table, to be determined by those leaders. So I won't say too much more about that because I can't say that I'm the best person to speak to it. But thank you for that question and thanks for the thumbs up. Okay. Any other questions from folks on the call? Vaughn, I see your hand.
Yeah, thanks for this presentation. Sorry I joined late, but what I caught sounded really, really good. I'm curious to know about the task forces that you're putting together. Is it only open to LT members, or can community partners also join into those task forces? Like, what's your vision for that?
You're getting an emphatic invitation to join from the folks here in person. Yeah, actually the task forces are absolutely open to partners and community members alike. Really, it's just that continuous improvement opportunity to say where are the areas where we can grow and really shift the work of our partnership culturally and structurally. So please do join us.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. I'll reach out. I do have one last question before I go back to being silent. How can we best serve? Like, what would be most meaningful in the way we engage with EP going forward?
Yep. I don't think there's one answer for that. It really just depends on your skill set, your roles, relationships, and focus in the community. I think one of my favorite things about our partnership is there isn't one answer to that. It might look like joining a council to join a community practice focused on racial equity or data or communications. It might look like joining one of our collaborative action networks to help shift outcomes for young people relative to mental health, well-being, early learning, high school graduation. I mean, there's just so many opportunities for you to give back and work cross-sector and cross-organizationally. So encourage anyone who also is holding this question to go to a EP 101. Do you see all these shameless plugs? And go have a community impact manager 101. Our community impact managers are really skilled at listening to you and really understanding the best place within the partnership to help really leverage your relationships and resources. So any other questions I can answer for folks on Zoom? All right, y'all. Love to give you back 9 minutes in your day. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, great next steps. If you want to read more about the leadership table or the Reimagining Leadership process, there's some blogs on our website. There's also a landing page. If you look at the search tool on our website, you can easily navigate to anything on the leadership table or the Reimagining Leadership group. Hybrid weirdness. That's right. Something. Thank you. And then also the all partner meetings and the EP 101s are all really great learning spaces for you to ask these questions moving forward. Thank you so much for coming. We'll see you soon.